Joining us this morning, Titania Jordan.
Tatiana Jordan. Did I get the name right? Jordan?
Titania.
Titania. Okay.
Titania.
All right.
It's Titania Jordan.
Hi everyone, I'm Titania Jordan of Connect, and I am so excited to be talking with Nicola Smith, founder of Rebel and Reason Consulting. Nicola, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So this is super informal because you touch on innovation in a way that not many of my colleagues do. And I was so stoked to bring you in and just really pick your brain. You gave an amazing presentation at launch about a year ago. And I was sitting in the front row just like, oh my gosh, like I've got to go on after her. Tell us about that presentation, because it's still groundbreaking even a year later. That's how far ahead of trends you are.
Yeah, so in that presentation, I was looking at some of the trends that I thought were really going to become imperative in 2017. We looked at chatbots. We looked at changes within the omnichannel retail space and how digital to physical is starting to affect customer experience regardless of where you might be shopping. And then we also looked at influencer marketing, which has actually been around for many years, but in its newest iteration really utilizing influencers from the online and digital space, and as we're seeing, that's continuing to grow as well. So I think with macro trends, that is how they tend to work, is they stick around for a number of years. For me, I'm always ahead of the curve, so I feel like we've been talking about these things for years by the time everyone else starts talking about them.
It's old hat, but
yeah.
So let's talk about how you got to where you are. You're the founder of this amazing consulting company, but before that, what were you doing and how did you get there?
Yeah, I started out in the film industry actually doing production design, and by the time you and I met, I had moved on to radio. From radio, I moved into the advertising world, first on the agency side, and actually worked at Moxie years and years ago. At Moxie, I helped to found their innovation team, which is now their Future X group. So since I stepped into the advertising realm, I've always played with emerging technology and help brands understand what's coming next and how they can leverage that for reaching their customers. After I was on the agency side, I jumped into publishing because I had never played with media and I'd never been in sales, so clearly I went into a media sales role, natural progression, but I felt like it actually rounded me out. I'd worked with creatives a lot, I'd obviously worked with technology a lot, but I'd never touched the media component, and those are really the three primary pieces of marketing, and so for me it was an opportunity to expand that. And after that, I kind of made the decision to go out on my own and see if I could help brands think about these technologies beyond just the marketing space, because many of them actually have implications to everything from business logistics and supply end management, all the way through to how your business is actually structured and what a new line of business might look like. So I like being able to dip my toes into a lot of different things.
Absolutely, it's so much fun. Your Facebook feed rivals TechCrunch or Tech Insider or VentureBeat, because you are sharing content that I'm constantly like, wow, like I maybe seem like a stalker because I'm always like, but it's just that good. Like it's that good. So how do you keep tabs on the future, on trends? Where do you curate your personal content from?
I use a number of different sources, but for me, I'm a sci-fi nerd. So I'm passionate about this independent of what I do for my job, which was part of what convinced me that this is maybe what I should be doing for a living. I use a variety of different online sources, everything from trendspotting.com to trendwatching.com, Springwise. I do look at the Mashables, although generally if something's hit Mashable, it's generally too mainstream for me. But I also look a lot at the venture sites, so VentureBeat, TechCrunch, really getting a sense of where are investors putting their money And a big part of my job is actually connecting the dots between disparate trends. So there are certain things that I look for as trigger points to me that things are moving from being an isolated trend or country specific or industry specific to being something that could be leveraged on a macro level. Some of those things are when you start to see the same thing or similar things happening in different markets independently. That tells me there's a bigger behavioral trend going on and something for marketers and brands to start looking at. Also look for trends that jump industries. So a great example of this is farm to table. Yes. Obviously starting out in the food space, very logical space for it to start in. What we've actually seen over the past about year and a half or so is that same concept moving into the apparel space, where high-end designers are in some cases literally buying cotton farms and producing their own cotton, so owning that production cycle from the very, very beginning. And again, looking at more organic options, things that are more sustainable, less effect to the environment, but the exact same concept. Farm to, you know, rack, I guess, might be the kind of way to think about it. So those to me, again, are triggers that it's likely we'll start to see that same concept appear in other verticals as well.
So what are you most excited about over the next few months?
Oh my gosh, so many things. I think you're seeing amazing things happen in the immersive experience space. So looking at virtual reality, augmented reality, and starting to really think about what user experience and design looks like in those spaces. There was a great Fast Company article yesterday or the day before about how in virtual reality, smell is actually a component of user experience. Which
is amazing.
As is sound. And it really forces us from a content perspective to start thinking about storytelling in a completely different way. Yep. I think you're seeing even today with Google's announcements a big focus on AI and how AI creates ambient experiences and can start to empower technology brands to really create experiences that aren't as overtly in your face or don't require you to take a specific action, but really can act in a more ambient way to solve problems for you, suggest products, provide you with information. So those are really interesting to me, but I'm passionate about everything from 3D printing to robots. So
I know.
For me, it's all of it is amazing.
It's such a fun time to be alive.
It is.
It's, you know, the world is our oyster, and access to resources and capital is just unprecedented.
So for me, the really interesting thing about living right now is I believe we're living at the point at which human capability from a technology perspective has finally caught up with our imagination, and almost anything you can imagine is now possible. And I think that is a pretty astounding thing, because I don't know that there's ever been a period in history before where we've seen that same ability to bring these things we've been thinking about to life.
That is spot on. You nailed it. That is why I think you and I both wake up every day like, what's going to happen next?
Yeah,
you know, and like,
absolutely.
And it can happen next. So in Rebel and Reason, your consulting firm, what are some of the projects you're working on right now? What are you currently solving for your clients?
It really depends on the client. I'm not specialized in a specific category or vertical. I'm not only working with enterprise versus small business. I tend to more take on projects that interest me. So I'm working with a number of folks in the financial sector. And actually fintech obviously is huge here in Atlanta. Yes. But more broadly, that is a space where they're about to see massive disruption. And so I'm seeing a lot of brands who are recognizing the need to adapt and adapt quickly. And that's part of the reason that they're working with me, is to figure out what do the next 5 to 10 years look like for us as a brand, for our industry as a whole, and for consumers as we start to think about changing behaviors in the space.
I love it. So anybody out there who is watching, I want to tell them how they can possibly help you, work with you. So first, what is the best way to find you and communicate with you?
The best way to find me is at www.rebelandreason.co. I'm also on Twitter, Rebel and Reason LLC. And the best way to help me is I'm looking to help solve problems. So if you have a problem that I can help solve, if you're looking for education into emerging trends and technology, I love helping people understand the benefit and the opportunities in these spaces. And I'm also running a number of workshops that are really focused on essentially challenger brand strategy, helping brands define themselves in the marketplace, understand their competitive set and conventions within their specific category, and then basically break those conventions.
I love it.
I like breaking rules, so I want to help other people break the rules too.
Yay! Breaking rules is fun.
Yeah.
How do you stay organized?
I still am old school. I do a written list with check boxes, and I am one of those terrible people that if something's not on my list but I do it, I add it to the list afterwards to make myself feel like I've achieved something. There's something cathartic about actually looking at a list, even in a day that's very hectic, and saying, actually, I actually achieved a number of things today.
Brushed teeth.
There you go, right?
Feels good.
Did it. But I still go old school, but I do use tools like Wunderlist, and that's actually more for personal communication with my husband. We tend to make a lot of to-do and family lists and shopping lists on there. I use Trello for a number of projects, but I've had enough experience with most project management tools that I'm usually adapting to what my client wants to use.
Right.
So if they're using Trello, I'm using Trello. If they're on Slack, I'm using Slack to communicate with them. So that's a part of how I approach all of this. Is
Right.
I'm going to adapt to how you need work done. I'm not going to come in with a specific set of tools.
We
that
will
you would
only
have to
use Basecamp.
Yeah,
which is
so-
my current favorite right now. But yeah, I'm immersed in Slack and Trello and all the different ways people like to project manage and communicate. What are some tidbits or nuggets that some mentors have poured into you that you carry with you through tough times?
I think the rule I lived by is ask for forgiveness, not permission. And that was something that was, really shared with me early in my career. I think especially when working in emerging spaces, you're often doing things that people either don't understand or are uncomfortable with, and you have to prove the value up front. And the only way to do that is to go out and build an MVP or bring them a use case that feels really tangible. I also think looking for mentors has been a really big piece of advice. Not feeling that you have to go at it alone, and being willing to ask. I ask every single person I sit down with, what can I help you with? What do you think about what I'm doing? What could I be doing differently? I feel like all input is important. So any meeting I have, that's part of what I'm asking people for is feedback, because I view my business and my brand as something that's going to constantly iterate based on the needs of the market and kind of what's happening at that time, and I get that feedback from others.
So I was going to ask why the name Rebel and Reason. I think you have made that very clear by the fact that you like to break rules and you like to back everything up with data. Any other reason why the name?
I love the alliteration of it. It felt like something really tangible. But more than that, as I started to share it with people in my network, people who know me actually said, "This isn't your brand, this is you." And I thought, okay, well then I've crafted the right brand, right? If it actually represents me as a person, especially because of the way I'm building my business. So I am a consultancy, but from a scale perspective, I'm not looking to hire a bunch of additional consultants. So I really needed to think about my brand as a representation of me, without it just being my name, because I felt like Nicola Smith was a bit too generic. So that was a big component of it, is really thinking not just what do I want my brand to be, but would this actually represent me and my skill set and the way I approach business to the world, and I think it has achieved that. So that's been really good.
So your unique abilities and talents are driving your mission and your company, and they're very apparent to everybody who knows you and works with you. And hopefully everybody who's watching. So I'm just so thankful to know you, to have a fellow just inspiration in the city. You are doing amazing things, and you are always so kind and open and willing to reach down and help lift up, and I think we need more of that, whether you're male or female. You know, I feel like sometimes it's so cliche to be like, so how is it being a woman in tech? You know, and it's like, okay, well, we know the challenges, but it's more than that. It's just being able to be an entrepreneur and to surround yourself with people whom you trust, and you're one of those. So just thank you. Yeah, you're awesome, and anything that I can do or we can do watching to help you continue on your path, like, let us know.
Thank you, and same here. I mean, I think to me, even as you talk about women in tech, I do think that that's a part of it, right? Part of the pieces that have been missing for us, and I would say much broader than the tech industry, is that network and that infrastructure of the person you can call that could connect you to that person that's a great potential client.
Right.
And I think that only happens if we do make introductions and if we are willing to share our network and not hoard, you know, kind of the contacts that we have and the knowledge that we have. So that's a part of my mission as well, is, you know, I'm more than happy to connect you with someone that would be a good client, or and not just you, but the audience as well. I mean, again, I feel like that's part of how we lift women up, is by building a broader network, and not just of other female entrepreneurs, but a broader business network that includes amazing men who can be mentors and guides as well.
Absolutely. I think you live by collaboration and not competition.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think we need to see more of that. So, Nicola, I'm so glad you could come in and share some insights with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.